This video is all about pilgrimage, okay? So pilgrimage means a journey to a special place of religious significance, okay? Now, so what we've got to learn during this are 3 different pilgrimage sites that Catholics can go to. We're going to focus on the Holy Land first, and in your exam, if they ask you to describe one pilgrimage site, I am encouraging you to always go for the Holy Land because it's the easiest one. The second one we're going to look at is Lourdes, and then we're going to look at one in Wales that they want you to know about, okay? Finally, we're going to evaluate whether Catholics should even go on pilgrimage or not. So we'll look at why it's important, and then the alternative about why it's not. So, pilgrimage to the Holy Land. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through some of the key points, where they go or what they do, and why, okay? So, these are really straightforward. And the reason it's so straightforward is all about following in Jesus' footsteps, okay? So, number 1, they visit the church, or the better word to use here is basilica, okay? They go to the church or the basilica of the Nativity. Why? To remember the birth of Jesus, okay? Because this is the place where Jesus was supposedly born. Number 2, they go to Mount Zion. Okay, so Mount Zion, why? Because it is where Catholics believe Jesus taught the Mass for the first time, okay? The next one, number 3, that they visit Golgotha. Why? Because this is the place that Catholics believe Jesus was put to death. The next one, they visit the chapel. Oh, it's getting hard now, man. The chapel of the Ascension. Why? Because this is where Catholics believe Jesus' ascension took place. Next, they visit the River Jordan. Why? To remember Jesus' baptism. Tough stuff, I know. Next one, they visit Cana, okay, which is spelled C-A-N-A. They visit Cana because this is, okay, the place where Jesus' first miracle took place. Now, a way to kind of remember this is Jesus' first miracle was changing water into wine. Why? So that all of the people present could get caned, which is another colloquial term for getting drunk. Caned, water into wine, cana. Now, a good little detail you could add to this is that some pilgrims or some Catholics decide to renew their vows whilst at Cana because it was during a wedding ceremony. It's a really good point to use. The next one, and you could have combined this with the first one, or you can do it separately. They visit the church or the Basilica of the Nativity and also the Basilica of the Annunciation. Why? Because they are to remember the importance of Mary. Okay, and why is that? Well, because she gave birth to Jesus in where the Basilica of the Nativity is, but also the Basilica of the Annunciation, that is where she was raised into heaven as well. It's a nice point to show some variation. And the final point is they visit the Western Wall. Now, this is where the temple used to stand in Jerusalem, but obviously the temple's been torn down, and it just reminds Catholics that their faith is rooted in in Judaism, okay? So you can say that they visit the Western Wall. So obviously you just need 5, but you can combine 1 or 2 of them, or there's certain ones maybe you could miss out the one about the Mount Zion if that's a bit confusing or hard to remember, then that's fine, but just 5 in total. Try to have a bit of variation in there though. Mention about Mary, mention about the Western Wall. They just show you level of understanding. So that's the first one done. Number 2. It's called Describe a Pilgrimage to Lourdes. Well, so Lourdes is obviously a place in France. Now this one, guys, is, just to give a bit of context, right? Catholics believe that there was a young girl called Bernadette that Mary appeared to, okay? Now you don't have to include this in your answer, it's just so you to know why it's a pilgrimage site. Now, they believe that Mary appeared to Bernadette here and she instructed her, okay, to essentially dig in the mud. And as she did, she found a spring of water. And Catholics believe that this water has healing powers, and they also believe that the presence of Mary can be felt in Lourdes. So they go there to make praise to her, to petition God, okay? That, remember her role, however, that, or we'll get on to studying her role, however, that she sort of acts on our behalf, where she speaks to God on our behalf. It's one of her jobs in heaven, okay? Now, here's some of the key specific things you need to remember. Remember now, guys, it's what they do and why. So, the first thing, okay, that Catholics do is they attend the spring, okay? So they go to the spring and to the baths. So the water is collected into sort of big baths, all right? Like small swimming pools, really, right? So they visit the spring and the baths at Lourdes. Why? Well, this is because they believe that the water has healing power. So they bathe in the baths, they go into them, but also some people choose to drink from them. Remember now, guys, they're not drinking from the pools where people have been in. They're drinking from the freshwater spring, okay? And some collect it because they believe it's holy water as well to take back to sick relatives, okay? Now, the next one, okay, is that number 2, they visit and pray at the sanctuary of Our Lady of Lourdes, okay, and worship at the grotto. So there's a grotto, which is like a little bit like a church, a little bit sort of like a cave with a church, right? So they visit the grotto, they visit the sanctuary of Our Lady of Lourdes. So it's the same point, but there's 2 different sort of ways of phrasing it. Why do they go there? Well, to feel closer to Mary, because this is where they believe the vision of Mary took place, okay? This is where they believe Mary appeared to Bernadette. Then, the next one, okay, that Catholics take, so they don't just go themselves, right? Catholics take sick relatives, or they may run groups, okay? So my sister was on one of these before, okay? She got taken, my sister's in a wheelchair. That they run groups where they take sick relatives or maybe someone who has a physical disability to bathe in the baths at Lourdes. Why? This is because they believe that there is healing power, okay? They believe there's a healing power within the holy water that is in Lourdes, in the hope that God will heal people, okay? Of whether their sickness or their physical impairment. Now, the next thing is, and it's a really complicated one, so they receive the Sacrament of Reconciliation. They're on pilgrimage. They want to feel close to God. What's a barrier between us and God? Sin. So they want to get rid of it. So they go to the Sacrament of Reconciliation at the Reconciliation Chapel. I know, complicated stuff, right? That they go to reconciliation at the Reconciliation Chapel. Why? To remove sin, so they can be closer to God when they're on pilgrimage. They made a big deal to go there, so they want to feel close to God. Then, the next 2 guys are both to do with processions, with walks, okay? So, there is one that's called the Blessed Procession. Blessed is just spelled like blessed. The Blessed Procession that takes part at 4:30 in the afternoon, okay? Now, for this one, this is where they carry what we call the Blessed Sacrament. They carry the body of Christ with them, okay? So they carry the body of Christ with them, and during the procession, they sing hymns, they make praise, okay? And they bless the sick. It's a way that they, if you want, feel close to Jesus. It's called whilst on procession. Jesus is there with them, so they make praise to so that God is there with them, but also to be there with their sick relatives, etc. The next one, so the first one's all about Jesus. The second one, though, is all about Mary, okay? And this one is called the Torchlight Marion Procession. Marion is spelled Marian, okay? It's from Mary. The Torchlight Marion Procession, which takes place at 8:45. Now, this one's all about Mary. This is because Catholics want to show a special devotion to Mary during their time on pilgrimage to Lourdes. Don't say love. You're not allowed to say love or worship. It's devotion. That's why I want the word to be used. Show devotion to Mary. So they carry statues of her, but also they say prayers such as the Hail Mary, or more specifically, the Rosary. We're going to study the Rosary in a couple of lessons' time, okay? So if you just remember it for now, that would be great. So they go on the Torchlight Marion procession, and they pray the rosary as they do, okay? And they carry statues of Mary. Then finally, the day ends with Mass, okay? So they go to Mass at the end of the day after the Marion procession. Why? Well, this is because it's the main form of Christian worship, and essentially it's a way that they really focus, if you want, their devotion to God and their worship to God. Okay, so that's how the day ends. So to summarize that one, all right, they go, first of all, they go to the water, right? They go for the healing powers of it, all right? Then they go to the grotto, all right? Or they go to the sanctuary of Our Lady at the grotto, all right? To sort of pray to Mary, or whatever, to intercede on their behalf, to petition God, to ask God to answer their prayers. They take sick relatives or someone who's disabled to the baths as well. They go to reconciliation. Then there's the 2 different processions. And then finally there's Mass, okay? Number 3 then, okay? Now, a pilgrimage site in Wales. So there's a couple of different ones in Wales. Now, I'm going to focus on, right, these ones are not as important, if I'm totally honest, as the 2 I've just said to you about Lourdes and the Holy Land, but they do want you to know one. Now, we're going to focus on just the one, okay? And it's called Holywell, which is spelled holy and well, okay? It's to do with stuff that's holy, and it's going to be something to do with water, because there's a well involved, okay? So Holywell, but it's pronounced Holywell. Right, yo then, let's get and go. Now then, first things first then, right? There's a big chapel there, okay? So, as the pilgrims get close to the chapel, they pray. I know, complicated stuff again, right? That they pray and they focus their worship towards God. Now, they say a variety of different prayers, okay? But including the pilgrimage prayer. So there's a specific prayer that they say. It is called the pilgrimage prayer, okay? Now, that's the first thing. Number 2, okay, the second thing you could say, they pray the rosary as they circulate the pool. So there's 2 big pools, one big pool, outside the chapel. So they pray the rosary while walking around the pool outside, okay? Why? Because they want to show devotion to Mary when they're at Holywell, okay? Number 3, there's a big pool there again. Guess what they're going to do? Those Catholics, they love a good swim, don't they, okay? They love a good dip in the water. So, pilgrims bathe in the pool, okay? So they dip themselves in. Now, key detail here, they do this 3 times, okay? They do this 3 times. And this is because, right, and this is the story, if you want, of Holywell, that there's a saint, she is now called Winifred, okay, that she was there and she got told that, as part of the thing that she should do, right, is that she was told that she had to ask for help from God, okay, 3 times, okay? And if God didn't answer the first time or didn't answer the second time, he would answer the 3rd time, okay? So what Catholics do is that they dip in the pool, okay, on 3 different occasions to remember, okay, to remember what Winifred was told by, I'll give you his name, Saint Bueno, like a Kinder Bueno, okay, by Saint Bueno, that if God doesn't answer her prayers first time, then he might answer them second time, and he will answer them on the 3rd time of asking, okay? So, there's your first sort of 3 points, all right? The pilgrimage prayer, go as they get close. Why? Worshipping God. Then the rosary as they circulate the pool. Why? As a way to show devotion to Mary. Then they dip in the pool 3 times. Why? Because they're remembering St. Winifred about what she was told by Kinder Bueno, Saint Bueno, okay? About if God doesn't answer her prayers first time or second time, he will answer them on the 3rd time. So Catholics do this, all right, as a reminder of that story, but also that they're about to ask God for something as well themselves, okay? Now, so the next thing, all right, that I've mentioned about Saint Bueno, okay, Mr. Kinder Bueno, don't call him Kinder Bueno, okay, Saint Bueno, that with him, okay, so what they've got there, right, is something called Bueno Stone. So he's a saint, he sort of was there, and it was where he used to pray, okay? So Catholics kneel on Bueno Stone to make praise to God, okay? Now, why? In the hope that God will answer, okay? God will answer their prayers that they're asking, okay? Right. After this point, there's a place that's really close to it, okay, called the National Shrine of Padre Pio, okay? Padre is spelled Padre. New word, Pio is Pio, okay? So, once they finished it there, okay, they go to the National Shrine of Saint Padre Pio, okay? And there are beautiful gardens. So what Catholics do when they go to Padre Pio's shrine, they relax, they meditate, okay, and they focus their prayers or focus on whatever the reason that they're on pilgrimage, okay? They spend a time in reflection. Once they've done this, okay, just like they did in Lourdes, at the end of the day, it concludes with Mass, okay? A traditional Mass. Why? Because this is the main form of Christian worship. To summarize the Holywell answer, they arrive, they make the pilgrimage prayer directed to God as a form of worship. Then they say the rosary and they circulate the pool outside as a way of showing devotion to Mary. They then go into the pool and dip 3 times because this is what St. Bueno taught Winifred to do when it comes to asking God for help, to answer not once, not twice, but 3 times, okay? And God will answer her. Following on from this, they kneel at Bueno Stone, okay? St. Bueno Stone. Why? Because they feel connected with God there. He's a saint, okay? But to help them focus their prayers toward God and make a prayer of supplication, usually, where they ask for help. The next one, okay, is then once they've sort of finished that bit, they go to Padre Pio's shrine, loads of big gardens, they go there for a bit of a chill, okay? By a bit of a chill, I mean for reflection and meditation, to think about why they've gone on pilgrimage and what they've asked for. Then finally, they end the day with high Mass, or just with Mass. They end it with Mass because it's the main form of Christian worship. The next video will be all about why pilgrimage is important / why it's not. Thank you for watching.